What's going on, friends? Logan Myerz back here for Cinephellas.com. Happy 4th of July, happy holiday weekend to all of you. Hopefully you all are staying safe and keeping the social distancing from your friends and family, wearing the face mask, all that fun stuff. 2020 has just been a weird fucking year with this global pandemic. Being quarantined inside your house for months on end, just really terrible year, not a lot of movies coming out, so we have to rely on technology at home, using the internet, just playing video games and trying to lay low. But tonight I want to talk about one of my favorite films of all time. It's the 45th anniversary. I'm talking about Steven Spielberg's Jaws. Fantasies
of evil can compare with the reality of Jaws. Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, Richard Dreyfuss. Jaws. See it before you go swimming.
So Jaws, I've seen this movie thousands of times over the years. I remember watching this as a young child, probably like most of you, seeing it on TBS late at night, and really started your fear of sharks and being in the water. That's what happened to me at a young age, seeing this film. I've definitely been afraid of the water and sharks ever since then. But 45th anniversary, they just released the new 4K restore of the film, and it looks absolutely beautiful. I love what they did with this film, how the colors pop. It doesn't have a graininess to it. The whole atmosphere, the underwater shots just look absolutely breathtaking and beautiful. It's amazing what they can do with technology and restoring old films. But with Jaws, the OG of the monster films, the creature feature, the horror film, and the film that put Steven Spielberg on the map. He directed this, a young buck, you know, getting into the industry and directing this. He almost got fired in the making of this because they went over budget and it took a long time to film this. And the animatronic shark, Bruce, didn't work half the time. They had to do a lot of editing to make this movie look good. So it went through a lot of trouble getting this film made, but it really made a lot of money over the years, became the first, you know, huge blockbuster, summer blockbuster, and it really put Spielberg on the map, you know, making so many blockbusters after this. But honestly, all these years later, 45 years later, it still holds up. One of the greatest films and horror films ever made, for sure, and definitely on my top 10 list of movies of all time. But if you aren't familiar with Jaws, it takes place in Amity Island, which is in Martha's Vineyard on the East Coast. You have the setup of the cop Roy Scheider plays Chief Brody, one of the most iconic, you know, characters in movies of all time. I love this actor so much. I love the character, right? But essentially on this island, these people start dying. He's looking into it and they see it's related to a shark attack. So they're trying to figure out exactly what kind of shark this is and how do they stop it. But Hooper is played by Richard Dreyfuss, another iconic character from this film. I would have loved to see him in, you know, some of the sequels, but he never returned. But I love his character in this film, being the marine biologist, the shark expert. He gets brought in to help Brody try to crack this case and find this shark and kill it once and for all. And they also introduced one of my favorite characters of all time, for sure, Quint, played by Robert Shaw. He brought something so special to this role, something that nobody could ever top. He comes in as, you know, the fisherman and the shark expert, you know, has so many iconic lines in this film, especially at like the town hall meeting. I love how he like scrapes his nails on the chalkboard to get their attention. But Robert Shaw brought so much to this character, and being one of the best characters of all time, for sure. One of the best characters in any of the Jaws films. And that's pretty much the setup of the film, is them trying to track down the shark, and it sets up a lot of great scenes of them out on the boat trying to, you know, track down Jaws, the great white that's lurking in the waters. And, you know, they failed time and time again on this boat of Quint's, and they have these barrels where they're trying to track Jaws, and you know, they have the guns, harpoons, and things like that, trying to stop it. But if things massive, they can't stop it, and it sets up a lot of great scenes towards the third act of the film, where we see the demise of Quint, the expert that was going to catch the shark. We see him get eaten alive by Jaws, which is another great scene in the film, how basically the boat's sinking and he kind of slides into his mouth. And it's really gory and bloody, and you can just feel the bones cracking, and you feel so much pain for Quint. You know, being one of the best characters and knows everything about the sharks, and he's going to catch it. He's the one that ends up dying. And then with Hooper's character, he's like in the cage, the shark cage, which is very terrifying. I would never ever do that, ever go in the ocean and be surrounded by sharks that can fucking just rip the cage open and rip you out. And another great scene, him going against Jaws and escaping, and we see what happens to his character at the very end. But the best part being Chief Brody taking on Jaws himself. The boat is basically just sinking. He gets pretty smart about it, and he has the gun. He's like, "Smile, you son of a bitch," and fucking blows up. And really great ending to the film. And then you see Chief Brody and Hooper swimming back to shore after they killed this monster. And they thought, this is it, he's done, he's dead. But, you know, setting up for more terrible sequels that definitely don't compare to the original. But I love the ending of this film so much, and how these three guys, all different personalities, all different characters, are working together to kill Jaws. And it doesn't end well for Quint, and, you know, Chief Brody makes it out on top, being probably the least experienced in terms of sharks. He actually comes out on top, figuring out how to kill Jaws. So I thought it was a great setup for this character. A really great ending, all around great film from start to finish. I love the story, the characters, character development, all the idiots in Amity Island. One being like the mayor that wants to reopen the beaches, even though there's shark attacks, people dying, because they want to make money, of course. I think this movie is still relevant in 2020 with everything going on with the global pandemic. They're opening up places again, and beaches and restaurants, and we're seeing a spike in the coronavirus again because people aren't social distancing and they're not wearing masks and all that stuff. So I thought this movie is really relevant. It still, you know, holds up all these years later, 45 years later. I never thought we'd be in a pandemic. In terms of directing, I love Spielberg in this film. I love how this movie put him on the map. He did a really great job directing all these characters, all the camera shots in this film, all the underwater shots, just everything with the shark, the animatronic shark, you know, trying to capture all that. That definitely wasn't easy, and having the shark in the ocean, and, you know, things malfunctioned, didn't have the technology back then, but I thought they did a really great job. And the editing in this film is top notch. They really fixed a lot of errors they had with this movie. It made it look really great, and it became this huge blockbuster. So the editing is definitely top notch in this film, on top of the directing and the cast. So overall, I love the original Jaws from 1975. It's one of my favorite films and favorite horror flicks of all time. It was the movie that got me interested in Spielberg and all the great films he did after this movie. You know, all the iconic characters such as Brody and Quint and Hooper. And this is a movie that made us terrified of sharks in the ocean, and it definitely did that to me being a young kid. Every time I go into a swimming pool, I still think, is Jaws in here? Is the fin gonna come up?
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Am I gonna hear that iconic John Williams score? I'm like swimming in the ocean or like in a pool. Da-na, da-na, da-na. So it definitely messed with my mind at a young age. It still does. Every time I go to the ocean, I still think I'm not gonna go far out there because I'm gonna get eaten alive by a shark. So if you think about that in terms of story, a movie that really affects people 45 years later, you're doing something right. If there's any movie you guys need to watch over the 4th of July weekend, it's the first Jaws. I don't think there's any other movie that's more comparable to 2020 than the original Jaws, with everything's going on in the world today. So if you guys have not seen this, and I'm not sure why you haven't seen this, but definitely check it out. So I'm giving Steven Spielberg's Jaws from 1975 a 5 out of 5. Woo! Jaws hair pieces. So what did you guys think of the original Jaws from 1975? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? Did you guys like any of the sequels? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit subscribe. This is Logan Myerz signing out from Amity Island. Hopefully they close the damn beaches this 4th of July weekend, huh? Yeah! Until the next movie review. Cheers!